myself and I, as I normally get started off on these things. Um, we are gonna have a fun one tonight. I thought this was gonna be kind of boring at first, and then I cracked these two wines open to get into, and they are opposite ends of the spectrum. For a rosé, that's a pretty wild time. So one fun thing we get into is some production aspects of rosé wine. Most people think it's all the same. There's some different aspects to consider, and we'll definitely see the opposite ends of the spectrum. Trying to modulate this background audio, just to be a hair, but let me know. It's not terrible. All right. I need some more light, but usually it's more light coming back at me, but it seems a little dark tonight. All right, folks. First up tonight, 19 Crimes, Snoop Dogg, Cali Rosé. It's a 2020 vintage, actually made last year, so this is fresh in the bottle. Actually, doesn't have much information on what they're making out of, so it's interesting for that. They don't really put a lot in there. As my wife realizes she's in a frame. And the next is, if you've ever seen on the shelves, Whispering Angel. They have a new version called The Palm. This is another Provence style rosé, 2019 vintage, so vintage older. Very classic, but very bright, vibrant label to interestingly, they're highlighting a different little price point than the standard Whispering Angel, which is at a shockingly high price point. The 19 Crimes Cali Rosé, I think it was a $12 bottle wine, so definitely very middle to entry price point. The Palms was about $18.99, I believe. I'm gonna double check that as I'm sitting here, because why the heck not? Just talking to myself generally. So if anyone is listening, start adding some stuff in the comments. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, any feedback, or bit better. Heard a little too much in the headphones. So one, we're comparing two different styles of rosé. One, California rosé. The second being a French rosé, Provence style from the Southern Rhone. The California, very big, bright fruit, sweet, good sharp acid, but just bold and vibrant. The French Palm Whispering Angel, floral, melon, some light, very nuanced berries and cream, much more subtle, and much more delicate in a sense, and with that delicacy, the delicate nature, I should say, is interestingly enough kind of the difference of how I see the atypical, the drinker style. There's going to be the 19 Crime. Hold on, I had a sneeze, so I'm going to mute this real quick while I do that. I think I fixed it. I think I got rid of it. I think I got over the sneezes. All right. So we have two rosés. Very, again, one looks orange and one looks pink in this shitty light, shitty camera. But one is very fuchsia, one is very light salmon. Those attributes are coming from a different couple factors. And so one, I want to get into, a little dive deep into the Palm. The Palm from Whispering Angel is a Grenache Syrah Cinsault blend. Cinsault being a port variety, actually, interestingly enough. Generally, mostly seen in port varieties, seen in the Southern Rhone. Hold on, my brother-in-law's texting me right now. Seeing if he'll jump in and actually listen. That'd be fun. All right. So, the Southern Rhone producing rosés in that area. They have a long practice of creating some really, really nice rosés that are very delicate, very floral, very fruity, but not in a robust style, a very delicate French, mysterious way. But their acidity is very mysterious as well, to where the chemistry, as we run it in a lab, which would shock you if you're a winemaker, seeing the pH and the TA of some of these wines. They're very, very tart wines. They don't come off as that angular, sharp style. A lot of that's from the viticulture, a lot of that's from the climate in these areas of France where they don't have the massive amount of heat degree days that we have in California, as well as the aggressive viticulture, the aggressive growth style. There's a lot more wine produced in France than the United States, which is shocking. People don't necessarily believe that, but the amount of tonnage they're producing. And I have to sneeze again. Sorry, I'm gonna have to mute at some point. I'm gonna fight it. Back. One of the it's coming. I can feel it. One of the aspects to it all is they have a very modest amount acclimation throughout the season, and that gives them just a ability to really dial in a pick, especially for rosés and reds and whites. They really can. I think I'm gonna sneeze again. I think I missed it. All right, thinking back. All right, rosé, French, Provence. You can look it up. They're a much higher latitudinal line than we are in most areas in California. They have some very interesting soil climates, from stony, pebbly rock where there's no dirt you can actually see to these beautiful steep landscapes that are embedded with a lot of like old riverbed stream minerality, and it really weighs on the impact to, I think, the structure and the minerality of a lot of their wines coming out of the whites, the reds, what they're creating for a rosé. One of the and that really goes into play in terms of how they're going to create these very soft, delicate rosés coming out of those areas, and they've done a great job of increasing that availability in the United States to give us these great options of wines shipped across the pond, the Atlantic Ocean, and get it to us in quantity. You look at Gerard Botron, and they've done a good job of just pushing that beautiful bottle with pretty great rosé wine at a drop dead low price across the United States. I think I've seen it down to like $9 at like a Costco, and that was at one point probably one of the best rosés in the market for a price point. Obviously, there's some great rosés out there, but that at one point was a beautiful rosé wine, and then it launched, got huge, and was a formidable beast that I think they've slowed down in the tracks a little bit, and we've made some room for some other players to pop up, like The Bomb by Whispering Angel. Also had a very huge increase right at that same time, about 2018. So I think all those factors of the growing cycle, the viticulture, the understanding of those areas, how to grow great wines in general, you really do see how French rosés can play into a more I don't want to say robust, but robust is not the right word, but a very delicate but refined style of rosé that I think a lot of people really enjoy. And then you have California winemakers that want to interpret that and bring that to the United States. And what does that mean? That means crafting a similar style, looking at some of similar grapes to use. A lot are going to be Grenache based, a lot are going to be Syrah based, but there's not a lot of those grapes to go around in the state. I can tell you for a fact, there's grape reports out that show you, and I'll eventually have an entire episode on like viewing the California Grape Report, where they report every ton of grape crush for every variety in every region. I've highlighted on my Cabernet episode in terms of the total tons crushed in all the different areas, what that means, and I really want to dive deep into the different attributes of California winemaking in that regard. But circling back to rosé, our 19 Crimes Cali Rosé. I mean, look at the color just in this. It's a frosted bottle, so please denote that in this light. It is a frosted bottle, but it is just pink fuchsia. It's a dope label. I gotta give them credit. It's looks cool. Obviously, Snoop Dogg is cool as shit. They've kind of turned around the 19 Crimes being this like Australian brand to this like cool Cali Red, Cali Rosé. I think they're going after a little bit different demographic of consumer, and their wine is definitely not. Again, these are not the same wine. They are rosés, but they are different classes. The 19 Crimes, again, being a California rosé, super, super ripe, super candied fruit, Jolly Rancher, watermelon candy. It is much sweeter, and with acid to balance. I did the analysis on this, and it's about 4x sweeter than the other one for roundabout numbers. I don't want to shoot out any numbers because there might be some variances that, I don't want to give away too much, but in terms of actual analytical analysis, it's about 4 times sweeter from the baseline of the Palm by Whispering Angel Rosé being pretty bone dry, not undetectable levels of sugar, but with a low alcohol and just a touch of minor residual that, in any winemaker's perspective is a bone dry wine, versus this is just palpably smelling sweet strawberry, that Jolly Rancher, that candied watermelon candies with the citric acid on the outside, whatever that is, smells like this. So that's the one interesting part, is this leads me to believe that this is just a hodgepodge rosé. I mean, they're calling it Cali Rosé. They're not calling out varietals. Their website may say something interesting about the varietal attributes. I pulled this up at one point. I couldn't find anything, but I'm gonna do it again because, why the hell not? 19 Crimes. Yeah, they have a pretty cool website in terms of their, the big brand. Treasury Wine Estates actually makes this. These damn portals to verify your age. Get some details on this. Yeah, I mean they're not calling out. Oh, they are. Oh, they do put a blend percentage on here. So this is a 10.5% alcohol wine. It's actually more. It's more like 9.5. I know because I tested it. But you have some variance in the alcohol once you label that versus what you stated on there. But they're calling Zinfandel, and so when you see Zinfandel in a rosé, just know that they mean white Zinfandel. They took grapes that are different. What does 19 Crimes taste like? Sorry, I don't have a chat up here. I just saw it on my Mr. Live Laugh Lloyd, Jeremiah. 19 Crimes tastes like a old school white Zinfandel. It's as palpably sweet as that. It's lovely. It's super vibrant and robust and fruity. There's some slight floralness and some minor hints of like stone fruit and some other aspects. But it is realistically a white Zinfandel blend. Not to knock on that. I am not calling white Zinfandel crime. The most interesting fact about this is white Zinfandel at one point was huge. I mean, the numbers they're showing of white Zinfandel are astronomical in early 2000s into the 2010s. I mean, that was, I did not say that. I'm saying right here now for all of you, I have always enjoyed white Zinfandel. Prior to even making it, I always thought it's just a big, vibrant style of rosé material that was fairly low in alcohol. I don't ever really enjoy the sweetness of it, especially when they got to the point where it was so cloyingly sweet that it was unpalatable, I should say. If you back off some of that sweetness, there's a really nice point in a white Zinfandel, to where the low alcohol and the acidity and the sugar levels really balance out really well. The 19 Crimes Cali Rosé is just slightly over that. Really, it is. While it is nice, scotch down, just a scotch down, and it'd be a really, really fantastic wine. Um, but they're not targeting me as a consumer. They're definitely targeting the masses, especially throwing Mr. Snoop D Double G on there. The the aspects of having, you know, someone like one of the most famous hip hop rappers in history on a label is one, genius, but two, a little bit of a risk and a gambit. But I think putting this package with the label and the wine, it really does all work together pretty well. Now, reverting back to the palm, I need to actually get a little bit fresh in here just to kind of chill mine down a little bit. You know, these as they are two vintages apart, or a vintage apart, they are the palm rosé has just a touch of diesel character or petrol. Um, that would be just from a slight bit of age on a rosé, but nothing that you should be worried about. Um, Especially when you're going up against a fresh ass white Zin, it's gonna be so robust of flavor. Um, but again, all those delicate flavors really come from, I think, a little bit difference of processing method. That's what I want to traverse into next, is the processing methodology of how you make rosé wines. And I know from experience that some of the and Matt wants to know if it looks like it would be a CBD product. You know, I bet one day, once we figure out labeling laws, like some of these wines could have some, cannabinoids in there, not non-high inducing cannabinoid based uh, or hemp based cannabinoids that would add you a little level of chill. There's some de-alcohol wines. I have one in my fridge right behind me, right? Where is it? Here, right behind me. There's a de-alkalized wine that has actual uh, CBD. I think it's CBD in there. Yeah, it's not THC, but CBD in there. That you know, de-alked wines are, one, not awesome. They're not terrible. They just lack any weight and body from the alcohol, as well as the aromatic impact is so minimal because of those that lack of ethanol bringing up any of those aromatics out of the glass. But back on kind of the production aspect of these rosés, one of the biggest differences I'm going to probably denote between these two is, one is probably the size and scale of some of the facilities making these. That's going to deduce the overall quality of these wines, and then the varietals that go into it. So again, the 19 Crimes being 75% Zinfandel, 20% Grenache, 5% Pinot Noir. You know, you have white Zinfandel, that character of Zinfandel being that so robust strawberry, watermelon, candied aspect is going to really take fiddle. Even if it was half as much, quarter as much, it's going to dominate the flavor aspect. While the Palm by Whispering Angel, I'm going to pull this up over here too because I had it and I somehow it's actually hard to get their website because they make it difficult. Oh well, weird. There's a check your birthday so you can get some information on the wine to buy. Um, that's the 20 crap face. I gotta go back. 19 download sheet. always recommend going to the website of any of these wineries and actually checking out the information they give you, because sometimes they give you a pretty good look on the inside. You can always Google the name of the winery. Always go to if you can find, like, this is The Palm by Whispering Angel, which is a subsidiary, for lack of a better term, of, I may have a French speaker in here. But I'm gonna just type this out because I don't know this. It's a Chateau. Sclens. Not saying that right, but so that's the first start of that company. And they also make Whispering Angel. They make Rock Angel. They make a couple other brands, and then the Palm, which is a newer brand to their face. Very perfectly designed label with the Palm logo and the pink. Very fun. I need to brush up probably on some French as I do some more of this, because it could probably help on. I know Matt would love a great pink Palm shirt. Maybe they sell one on their website. I'm actually on there right now. See if they have a merch store. Let's see. I bet they have a merch store. That would be fun. If they do, I'm totally buying you one, dude. They don't. Balls. Maybe one day. We gotta buy more of it. Maybe give them some vague. So the 19, again, different grape sourcing between a White Zinfandel based 19 Crimes Cali Rosé and this Palm by Whisper Angel, which is Grenache, Cinsault, Syrah, and Carignan. Again, the Grenache probably being the heaviest varietal. They're going to name it first, probably for legality purposes. That Grenache is going to give you very light structure, very simple, delicate red fruits, some floral aspects. Cinsault, again, being a port variety, generically, as well as you see Cinsault in some ports. You see Cinsault in Rhone blends. Syrah being a more structured, peppery varietal, even when you're making rosé. And then Carignan, actually, another light structured, light fruity, more earthy toned red grape. When you produce these in a rosé style, your biggest aspect to control the color and the structure is how fast you're going to go from the vineyard to your crusher and press off the skins to maintain the light structure. You don't pick up any tannins, pick up as minimal color, and you want to get some of those. I mean, they're doing a very small, basically any light extracted color that's coming from that little bit of process of most likely machine harvesting, hand harvesting, combo of the two, in combination with, I can only presume, a couple of like color management techniques, minimizing oxygen, minimizing how hard you're pressing, to minimize that color impact, but get the fruit pressed off to get it cleaned up and fermented as quickly as possible, so that you can have that long, slow ferment to kind of create those delicate aromatics. That's one of the things in a lot of winemaking practices that you do, is really how do you develop the most aromatics as safely and as healthily for the yeast population of fermentation. It's really finding that perfect balance of temperature and nutrients to let them slowly build up in population, then slowly just start eating alcohol or eating sugar to where all they're doing is just they're fat and happy. They're producing all the ester compounds and all the terpenes and all the fun compounds that they're deriving from precursors in the skins and the juice material that you're fermenting, and then they have some interesting properties to maximize that depending on your strain that you're using. We talked about some strains last time, and you know, we have a multitude of strains from all these different producers that can really maximize some rosé qualities pretty well these days, which is very fun. You may not need it depending on where you're at, but for California winemaking, it does definitely add a lot of bang for your buck using some interesting yeast that pump up the floral attributes, pump up the fruity attributes, which makes a California style definitely more big and vibrant, which you see in this White Zinfandel based Cali Rosé. Sorry, I have to like reach up here and twist it just because my brain deals better with the angles of the camera and the screen that I'm staring at, getting to here. So, for the opposite end of the spectrum, producing this White Zinfandel, um, the process is very similar, the same, but where you're sourcing from is drastically different than the areas of southern France where they're producing that Grenache, that Cinsault, that Syrah, that Carignan for the Palm. They're producing White Zinfandel from right around where I live. They're producing around from anywhere from Bakersfield all the way up to Lodi, depending on grape sourcing. There's not much difference in terms of cost perspective on White Zinfandel in these areas, as growing Zinfandel for White Zinfandel is different than growing a concentrated red Zinfandel that you're gonna buy for a high-end red. There's 6x difference sometimes when you're dealing with a head-trained old vine Zinfandel that's gonna have concentrated spice and plummy portiness to that wine that is going to denote the difference. When you're growing White Zinfandel, they're looking for tonnage, they're looking for health, they're looking for how they get the most bang for your buck, because they're not concerned about color. They're generally not concerned about the overall sugar content as it comes to the end, because most people want fairly low alcohol White Zinfandel. That's the market that's played through some of the biggest brands out there, the Beringers, the Sutter Homes, that have made a staple for their names in the past decade or two. Now that we have a higher end category of rosé, it's how do we bridge the gap from, perfect example of this to this, where you have long standing rosé producers in France making excellent delicate wines, from the biggest consumers making, a White Zinfandel rosé with some other fun blenders, that Grenache, that little bit of Pinot Noir that they stayed on there. I presume is as true as possible. But the biggest factor of this is they're not going to be the same because your grape sourcing is different. There's not enough Grenache and Cinsault and Syrah and Carignan planted in California to really give you that style in mass quantity to compete with the tonnage that they're producing in France, and that's got to change in terms of the California viticulture. That's got to change in the mindset of what we're going to pay for the grapes for these. If we want to provide a similar style, we have to, I guess, put our money where our mouth is as a California area to compete similarly. Not to say that there's other varieties that don't make sense in terms of rosé. I actually make and produce Barbera rosé in conjunction with some of these other varieties, the Grenache and Syrah, and maybe some other fun ones that really do have some of the similarities to the French rosés, through different multiple means of fermentation techniques, to kind of elaborate similar characteristics of that light, delicate fruit, that floral character, maybe those light melons, and then really watching your color pick up when you're picking fruit and when you're pressing, as well as modifying and adjusting your blend to look and be that light pink, pretty color with just that little blush, not fuchsia. Which no problem with them. Sometimes bright rosé is very obviously a rosé versus some of these like pale wines that maybe don't have anything to their substance of aromatics and flavor compounds. But which one's better? Volumetrically, if you went off of some of the data, if you pulled up data on rosés of this style versus rosés of this style, I would think you'd be shocked that this wins most of the time. I think most of the time, or at least in the last bit of history, that has won the category for sure. Nowadays, I think these lighter style producers have found a home, taking away from some of the white wine drinkers. And California producers are always searching for build a more delicate style using some of the great grape varieties that the French have been using and mimic in our area, but also put our California twist on it. And that's what I think the most interesting part is how do we do that and all compete? Is that we're all on the same shelf. These guys are going to be essentially. I picked these guys up almost dead center at a Total Wine. I mean, one was I think a row off, but they were essentially the same area and the same price point. Again, the Palm was like $14.99. The Cali Rosé was like $11 or $12.99. So they're not very far off. Volumetrically, I'm not sure how much. Excuse me. I'm not sure how much they're producing of each. I can only imagine the Cali Rosé is producing a crap ton. While the Palm, while a new product, new to the market in the last couple years, I can imagine they have some pretty good volume behind that. So it's an interesting perspective on who's doing what, especially as people start turning around and putting some whites in some of these blends. And I think it works. And I've actually done that where you take some of that Zinfandel, but if you take it from a dry white Zinfandel perspective, without the sugar, without the sweetness, and look at some of those drier characteristics that doesn't have that candied flavor of strawberry and watermelon. If you take it from that perspective, there's some really nice attributes to it, and then you can and pair that with some of these other varieties like Grenache and Syrah, and if you have the availability for some of these, in the Palm's case, the Cinsault and that Carignan, if you have those abilities, you can make a really beautiful, bright, vibrant blend that has maybe some earthier tones and some more spicy tones with a lighter color than this pinky pink fuchsia guy over here. I think you could really compete really well with some of the Gerard Boutrons, the Whispering Angel, the Marabelles, the Angelina Jolie brand Marabelle. I think we can compete better and probably at a better price point, but there's definitely a lot to explore in the rosé region as I move through some of these streams. But going back to the taste of these two, they are just so far apart. So far apart. I'm going back and forth between glasses if you haven't noticed. Thanks to all the new followers in the last hour. My sisters, my brother-in-laws. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone jumping in, listen. If you have any comments, please do add in the chat. Even if you just want to type random letters, honestly, having more people in the chat is another metric they measure you by. So chat, whatever way it's going to pop up in here. Put stuff in there, ask questions, always appreciate it. If you have any commentary, if you have any other notes or audio concerns, please let me know. I want to make sure. I do sniff a lot. I listen to myself after I do these. I do that a lot. And this headset picks up a lot of the volume of that sniff action. So excuse me for that. But until I can get a better boom mic setup, and a mixer board, that would be pretty ideal for this. But until I can do that, you gotta deal with my self-actualizing sniff every once in a while, as I do, I think, as a pause mechanism. But okay, so we talked about the production styles, the generic side. We talked about the flavors. We talked about the visuals. I've talked about the visuals a lot because I think it's the biggest proponent of this one. They're so different. We talked about some other aspects of rosé production that I can go into a little bit deeper that I actually like to, is some of these other varieties that do add to the nuance of rosé wine production that we're starting to see now, and the different modes of it. So this is kind of a take it back a step. There's picking fruit early and under ripe for a red wine. Again, you're taking rosé, red grape varietals and pressing them usually at a slightly underripe stage to minimize color, minimize that ripe fruit, characteristics you want in a red wine, but you don't want in a rosé. Then there's a different methodology, the Saunier method, which is actually bleeding a red wine fermenter that may have some very ripe fruit, Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, Sangiovese, or Grenache, or Mourvedre, whatever the variety of red wine may be. You can take a small cut. Sometimes it's 3 to 5%. Some people do up to 10%, and then you can split that off. And what that does is, one, create a more concentrated version of your red wine that you're going to produce at a lower volume. Obviously, you just pulled off a small segment of it, but at the proper time of after you crush that, where you're still bleeding some of that color out from the skins, where you haven't really absorbed it all, you're able to enhance the concentration of that color, as there's still a finite amount of skins to bleed color out into the volume of solution. If you reduce that solution, you increase the percentage of color constituents that you can extract out of there, barring proper methodology and execution of that. And then you have this light rosé style that may be high in sugar, low in acid, that you can adjust and create that high acidity profile. And you have ability to do water adjustments to kind of thin out that high sugar substrate media you just remove from there, and that can actually make some really nice rosé materials. You're thinning out, but you have that heavy base to start with that you're modifying before you start fermentation. And you can make some really nice. Hold on, I'm popping in my head. Back this off a little bit. You're able to produce some very nice Pinot Noir rosés. A lot of people use a combination of the two methodologies to make Pinot Noir rosé, because one, you get to concentrate your red Pinot Noir for your production, maybe get an extra point in score from the wine enthusiast or wine spectator, or give something to your customers they may enjoy more because of that concentration, as well as have a secondary product of a rosé material from that bleed, that Saunier of those red wine fermenters before they kick off. Those are two methodologies. Most of the wines that we taste today do not have that bleed methodology, or at least most likely not. based off their base alcohol and color and aromatics, you wouldn't maintain that ripeness or lack thereof of ripeness with a high sugar content ripe red material versus a red grape variety built for rosé production, like the Zinfandel in this 19 Crimes, or the Grenache and the Syrah and the Mourvedre and or Grenache, Syrah, Cinsault, and Carignan for the Palm. They're going to be growing that specifically for rosé, and I think it's a better methodology to plan viticulturally for what you're going to be producing, because it puts all your eggs in the proper baskets, versus making a red wine that you're going to bleed off and your substrate that you take that Saunier fraction off of, while works, may not lead you to the end goal you really want when it comes to some of those, again, those precursor aromatic compounds to create the light, delicate fruits and floral aspects, which you would probably not obtain through a ripe red Grenache or Pinot Noir or Zinfandel material. Get a lot more jammy characteristics, which, even if you watered those down, would not really maintain. Again, if anyone's listening, please throw a comment on the board. Appreciate the statistics of having chatters chatting. Thank you for the 5 viewers. Love the commentary. Matt, get Hayes to log in. I could use a 6th viewer. Definitely could use all the viewers being in here, hitting those stats up as I try to get affiliate status in Twitch. Need to get, looks like 21 more followers, and there's no real timeline. The follow date below here is just a goal I set for myself for 8/1, but if you do have any people that would be so kind to make an account on Twitch, search my name, Scuba Steve Gaming, and hit the follow button on my page, I would appreciate it. If you have any other commentary, please feel free to send it to me. You can, my phone somewhere, I don't even know where my phone went. That's weird. Oh, it's right on in front of me. You can follow my Instagram. I should have to remember my Instagram name because, my Instagram name is Scuba Wine and Gaming. Scuba Wine N Gaming. Where I'm I screwed that one up. I have a YouTube too, where I'm throwing some of these directly on there without really any editing. So with that, I'm going to take a little potty break, refill some glasses, put these wine bottles back in the fridge. I'll leave some music on for a hot second. If you are listening and you want to stay in here, I appreciate the longer views, and let me know if you have any thoughts on rosé in a minute.